Hey guys, Philip with Trade Genius, and welcome to another crypto update. This is for July 26th, and wanted to go over the SEC ruling on ICOs, or initial coin offerings. They did issue a report concluding that the tokens are or digital assets that are tokens from DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, were technically securities. And so kind of wanted to delve into that a little bit and talk about what the real world impacts are for the market and for you in dealing with these initial coin offerings. So anyway, I wanted to show you the actual release from the SEC on their website. So if we go over to that, so you'll see this came out on July 25th, and so it went into how basically they felt that initial coin offerings or token sales would be an instrument or a sale of a security, and therefore would fall under the federal jurisdiction of the SEC as far as security regulations go. So that would make going or taking a token to ICO, initial coin offering, a little more complicated, and I think you would see guys trying to avoid getting regulated, as that would add a lot more layers and cost and overhead into their offerings. So in reality, what ends up happening is there are going to be ICOs that aren't going to be classified as securities, but they have to now. They're going to these DAOs, or these organizations that are going to have initial coin offerings or token offerings, are going to have to be very careful in that what they offer isn't considered a security. And so there's different examples that come up where we can go over where, and I'll bring an example of a token where they aren't going to be considered a security, and they're gone through the legal counsel as necessary to come to that conclusion. Impacts on the market, if we can switch gears here, let's take a look at. You see here we were consolidating, and then all of a sudden we fell out of this consolidation. We were in like a pennant here, and we fell out. And curiously, the SEC announcement came out right about in here somewhere. So we had to move down before the announcement. Somebody always knows, right? So I'm sure that prompted, when that was coming out, I'm sure that prompted somebody who was in the know to sell and get out because they weren't sure what the impacts were going to be. In reality, this is a technical pattern that is a bull flag, and we'd be looking actually to see a move up. But we are in the week of the Bitcoin Cash chain split and SegWit locking in, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the market. So we'll see what plays out. Technically speaking, though, this is set up to go up to this upper part of this flag channel. So we'll see how that plays out. But as you can see, there was a negative impact on the market, which was the point I was trying to make. I think for the most part, the market has digested this, and so I don't think we're going to see much more in the way of this ruling really being negative. I think if anything, now we're going to be looking at the split off with the Bitcoin Cash alt token, if anything, having a price impact. But I think the market's digested it, so I think that move there is part of that, and I think that's over for now. But so going back to what does this technically mean for you guys as far as the ICOs? So one example is Proppy. Proppy is an organization. They're not a DAO. Okay, the token is not a security. They've gone to like one of the biggest law firms in Silicon Valley to ensure that even though they're going to have an initial coin offering, it's not going to be considered a security token. That would have to be registered under U.S. law, because that's basically what the SEC is saying, that securities in the form of a digital asset are under regulation. So some tokens will be considered securities depending on how it's structured, and some won't. Okay, so that's basically how that boils down to. I think those that are going to go out of country, and they're going to block essentially what the rule is you can't solicit anyone in the U.S. if that's the case. So these guys will go to like Switzerland or something like that and base their headquarters out of there, and block any Northern American IP addresses, or United States IP addresses, I should say, from being able to access their ICO page. That's the rule. They can't solicit US. Now, can you go and get these tokens through, if you've got a VPN? Yeah, you could. But again, you'll have to look at what the legal implications are for yourself if you were to take possession of these ICOs that the SEC would deem securities and fall under their regulation. So another thing I wanted to cover was the fact that I don't think this is going to be any more bearish. I think that actually the fact that the SEC put a position on this, I think that it's going to be, somewhat bullish because they've clarified the stance, so now everybody knows. This was a gray area and people didn't know. I think it's constructive language. I think that it's also investor protection because let's just face it, there's been some pump and dump ICOs that have come out. So I think it may help in that regard. Also too, I'm not a huge fan of regulations, but it will give a clear path for real money to flow into cryptos, because let's face it, if we're going to see some of the projections that we want to see, institutional money is going to have to flow into the crypto space, and it will, because it's not going away. So basically that's it. SEC's basically fired off a warning. They didn't do anything legally with the token sale that they're investigating. By the way, that was slock.it. That was the DAO they were investigating, and basically it was just a warning. They just said, hey, from now on, this is going to be considered securities. So companies are going to either have to structure it in a way where it can't be classified as a security, get the legal counsel to do so, or they're just not going to be issuing them in the United States, is my guess, because of the legal framework and the extra overhead that's going to cost to deal with that. And then as far as U.S. citizens, that's going to be up to them to deal with on avoiding them altogether, or what the implications would be if they were to go around and try to get to the ICO sales pages that are outside the country. But for the most part, I don't think that, I think the sell-off we saw was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think there's going to be, I really don't think any long-term bearish move is going to stem from this, personally. So anyway, that's kind of it for the SEC and the ICOs, and I hope that kind of clarifies what's going on with that. If you have any questions, just go ahead and post them down below. But other than that, wanted to go back to the charts and just kind of show you where we're at technically. So let's take a look at charts. And again, we're in this bear flag. So this is the hourly chart here. We got the daily chart over here. Daily chart, you can see we're in again, that's a bear flag. These zones are basically bearish fib zones and bullish fib zones. And as you can see, we are in a bullish fib zone area on the daily. If this holds, your targets are over 3,000. You got 31.31 and 32.39. But I don't know that we're going to see that until after August 1st is out of the way, because what you're going to probably see to a certain extent, people are going to maybe be consolidating their holdings back to Bitcoin, bringing it home to a wallet, and during August 1st, they're going to have the snapshot of the chain, which will be 12:20 Universal Time, 12:20 UTC. So you might want to make note of that, and then we'll see from there. And then the other thing, obviously, is making sure that SegWit does follow through and lock. Once that's out of the way, I think, boom, I think it's going to be very bullish for cryptos going into the next couple months. We can also take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum was in a consolidated pattern, and as you can see with Bitcoin, Bitcoin broke out of that and moved up to these weighted moving averages. That is WMA 65 that it hit up against. that's one that tends to get respected when you start to see a move out of an area. It'll pause, as you can see here. There's, you know, prices kind of consolidated around that area. So that's Bitcoin. Ethereum kind of followed suit. Boom, hit that WMA 65 as well. And also look at Litecoin. Litecoin not as exuberant, but is moving up a little bit past its WMA 65. Excuse me. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, I think that if we look at Bitcoin, because it's kind of going to dictate what's going on, I am biased to a move back up to this area here, but whether it gets out of through this bearish fib zone remains to be seen. That's in the let's call it 2640 area. So I'm guessing we'll probably go up there, or give it a good try anyway. That's my read on it right now. But again, I think we're just going to kind of see some more sideways action, maybe sideways to down, until we get past some of these mile markers like August 1st, and then the SegWit lock, which happens later in August. So, but we'll keep you up to date on that. And that's pretty much it for this update. So just stay on your toes. It's the Wild West in crypto land. We'll have some more updates later in the week, because things are changing by the minute in the crypto space. But we'll keep tabs on it and keep you informed. All right, guys, have a great trading day tomorrow on Thursday. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.